Tonight, you'll do something so ordinary you won't notice it. You'll flip a switch. Light will flood the room, the shadows will vanish, and you'll go about your evening without a single thought about the dark. But your body will notice. Somewhere underneath your calm, a very old system will still be running, still scanning, still waiting for something that hasn't hunted you in 100,000 years. Most people assume fear of the dark is a childhood thing, something you outgrow like monsters under the bed. But the real answer is far stranger. You never outgrew it. You just built a world bright enough to hide it from yourself. So picture the night your ancestors lived through. No switch, no street light, no glow from a screen. When the sun went down, the world didn't dim. It closed. A moonless night in open country is darker than almost anything you have experienced. You could hold your hand in front of your face and see nothing. Now think about what that meant. Your ancestors were not the biggest animals out there. They were not the fastest. No claws, no armor, no night vision worth mentioning. What they had was eyesight built for daylight and a body that stopped working the moment the light left. So here's the question. If you're a soft, slow, daylight animal and the darkness belongs to something else, what happens to you every night for millions of years? The answer is written in the bones. A South African paleontologist named C.K. Brain searched a cave system called Swartkrans. Inside were the fossilized remains of early hominins, cousins, and ancestors of yours. For a long time, people assumed those caves were homes, shelters, places our ancestors dragged their food back to. It was a comfortable story. It made us the hunters. Brain looked closer. On one of the skulls were two small round puncture marks, spaced a specific distance apart. He compared them to the lower canine teeth of a leopard. They matched. Those caves were not our homes. They were feeding sites. Our ancestors weren't dragging food in. They were the food. He called his book The Hunters or The Hunted. The answer was not the flattering one. Sit with that. For most of the story that made you, your ancestors were not at the top of the food chain. They were on the menu. And the hours when that was truest, when leopards and hyenas and cats with eyes built for the dark went to work, were the hours after sunset. What does a species do when it is prey, blind, and slow for half of every day? It adapts. Not with claws, with feelings. Here's the logic of evolution. It does not care whether you are happy, calm, or rational. It cares only which of your ancestors lived long enough to have children. And in the dark, the ancestor who felt a jolt of unease at a rustle in the grass, who froze, who climbed, who moved toward the fire, was likelier to see the sunrise than the one who felt nothing. Fear was not a bug. Fear was the survival mechanism. The nervous ones lived. And you are descended from the nervous ones. This is why your fear is not a fear of everything. It is targeted. A Swedish psychologist named Arne Oman ran experiments on what humans learn to fear. He showed people images and paired some with a mild shock. The interesting part wasn't that people learned fear. It was which fears stuck. Snakes and spiders produced responses that were fast, strong, and stubbornly hard to unlearn. Guns and electrical outlets, things far more likely to hurt a modern person, faded fast. Your brain isn't tracking what's dangerous today. It's tracking what was dangerous then. Your fear is not random. It is a list. An inherited list of the things that ate your family. And the dark sits at the top, not because darkness can hurt you, but because darkness is where everything on the list gets its advantage and you lose yours. Notice what actually frightens you at night. It's almost never the darkness. It's what the darkness might be hiding. When you were a child and scared at night, what did you want? Not just light. You wanted someone else there. That detail matters more than you'd think. Your ancestors didn't survive the night by being brave. They survived it together. Two researchers, David Sampson and Charles Nunn, studied sleep among the Hadza, a community in Tanzania who still live in ways that echo how humans slept for most of our history. They tracked a group across many nights, expecting what everyone assumes, the whole camp asleep at once. That's not what they found. Across hundreds of hours, there was almost no moment when the whole group was asleep at once. Somebody was always awake, not on a schedule, not assigned. It happened naturally because people in a group don't all sleep the same way. The older ones woke early. The younger ones stayed up late. Someone stirred, sat up, glanced around, and drifted off while someone else opened their eyes. They called it the sentinel hypothesis. The messiness of human sleep is not a flaw. It is a defense. A rotating, unplanned, unconscious watch. Your group's differences were your security system. Now bring in the other thing that changed everything: fire. Fire didn't just cook food and keep you warm, it pushed the dark back a few meters. And in those few meters, something unprecedented happened. For the first time, a daylight animal owned a piece of the night. Think about what that did. The light didn't just reveal threats, it gathered people. It made a circle. It created the first hours in human history when you were awake, safe enough, and with nothing urgent to do. Anthropologists like Polly Wiesner, who study firelight talk, noticed that night fire talk differs from daytime talk. Daytime talk is practical. Complaints, plans, who did what. Night talk turns into stories, songs, the dead, the people who aren't here anymore. So look at what the dark gave you. It gave you fear, it gave you the group. And when you pushed it back with fire, that defended circle became the place where stories were born. The campfire and the ghost story are the same invention. Now come back. Come all the way back to tonight. The leopard is gone. Your bedroom is not a cave, and the odds that anything is waiting in your hallway are effectively zero. You know this. You can say it out loud, and every word of it is true. And it will not help. Because that ancient system does not listen to arguments. It doesn't read statistics. It doesn't know you've locked the door. It's older than your reasoning. It runs beneath it, and it was built by 100,000 knights that were genuinely trying to kill you. You cannot talk it out of a job it did well enough to produce you, so it does the only thing it knows. It looks for something to point at, and this is the part that should stop you. When there's no leopard, it doesn't switch off. It finds a replacement. Notice when your anxiety shows up. Not in the afternoon. At 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, when the money problem or the thing you said 6 years ago feels enormous and unsurvivable. That's not a coincidence. That's the same system, same alarm, same hour, same nervous scanning for a predator in the dark. It just has no leopard anymore. So it uses your job, your health, your regrets, your life. Your ancestors lay awake watching the tree line. You lie awake watching your own thoughts. It is the same vigilance in modern clothes, and it feels every bit as urgent, because to the part of you doing the feeling, nothing has changed at all. So what do you do with that? Maybe this. Stop treating it as a malfunction. That jolt of unease when the lights go out isn't weakness. It's the oldest surviving piece of you, still standing its watch long after the world stopped needing it. Every person who ever felt it and lived is somewhere in your family tree. It's not a flaw in the machine. It's the reason there's a machine at all. And notice what it still wants. The same two things it always wanted: light and someone else in the room. You didn't outgrow that. You just started calling it a lamp and a phone call. So tonight, when the sun goes down, you'll flip a switch. And you won't think twice about it. But now you know what that switch is really for. It isn't for the room. It's for the animal inside you that spent 100,000 years waiting for the sun to come back and never quite believed that it would. The dark didn't leave. You just learned how to hold it off, one small light at a time.